Hello, everyone. I'm Vikas Malik, a forgiveness coach, and today I'm thrilled to be in conversation with Mark Goodman, who is a forgiveness advocate, speaker, and author. Mark, thanks for your time.
It's so good to be with you. Thank you very much for all that you do.
You are welcome. My first question with you is your personal journey from an abusive home life in Detroit to becoming the executive director of 70 into 7 Path to Forgiveness is remarkable. Can you share some pivotal moments that led you to embrace forgiveness as a path to healing and reconciliation?
I would love to. Look, there are a lot of us that have a tough childhood, a bad childhood, and sometimes even in the form of abuse. And that abuse can be in the form of emotional, physical, um, verbal, sexual, and then one of even just an omission, that being neglect. And I grew up in Detroit in a very rough area, but also a tough family life with a father who is alcoholic, but he was abusive in the form that my three older brothers, he used to beat them till they were almost unconscious with his fists. My oldest brother, he threw him out the front picture window, right through the window. But it didn't stop there. My dad sexually abused his own boys. So for a little boy to be sexually abused is one thing. By your own father, you could imagine can leave some really, really deep wounds. And it did. Um, as a teenager, I ended up living out on the streets and beaches of Los Angeles, California, for over a year. And as strange as it sounds, I have good memories of it because it was better. It was safer than what I had growing up in Detroit. Um, my three older brothers didn't fare so well. My oldest brother passed away a few years ago, full of anger. And you know those people that just can't let it go. Do you know what happened to me? I'm going to hang on to this to the day I die, and I'm going to be angry to the day I die, and you should be angry as well. And that was my brother. My other brother virtually went crazy. He's schizophrenic. He lives in a apartment all by himself. He's got walls completely around him in the sense that he won't meet with anybody. He doesn't want to be touched, doesn't want to be hugged. And he's got imaginary friends. And his imaginary world is safer than the memories of the things that my dad was doing to him at age 12. And then my middle brother, the one who taught me business and led me to God, called me in 1986, and while on the phone call, took his own life. Now, Muhammad is, on his death certificate, it shows suicide, but in reality, you know as well as I know, what should be on there is he died of unforgiveness, because that wound of unforgiveness will affect and infect everything, and it did with him. Muhammad, figure it out. Make sense of this. Here I am. I'm one of the happiest guys that you'll ever meet. I got a beautiful wife. I got a beautiful life. 6 gorgeous girls, 13 grandkids. And I'm happy. How does that make sense? Other than the power and the freedom from forgiveness, to be able to say, I don't have to carry this around one more day. I don't know what happened to you. I don't know what happened to anybody that's listening to this right now, but I do know this. I do know we don't get through adulthood. We don't get through childhood in most cases without emotional scars and bumps and bruises that we often carry around with us that hurt us, that hurt our relationships. So here I am in front of you. You asked for my story. Here I am as an example of the power the freedom and the joy that's found in forgiveness, even in the darkest of events, in the darkest of times.
Right. So, 70 into 7 Path to Forgiveness is non-profit organization dedicated to helping people on the journey to forgiveness. Could you tell me more about the work and mission of this organization and the impact it has had on individuals seeking healing?
That's great. Start off small. Like so many people who've got a bad story, I wore a mask most of my life. I didn't tell anybody, you know, the shame that's involved in that, as one can imagine. And once I took that mask off back in 2014, and I finally said, enough is enough. I'm going to go ahead and tell. I didn't even tell my wife. I told my wife, you better sit down, come in the kitchen, sit down. There's stuff that happened to me in our family that I've never told anybody, including you. But once I took that mask off, everything changed. My relationship with God, my relationship with my wife, with my family, with my friends, everything changed overnight to the better. And I started sharing my story. And next thing you know, I found myself inspiring other people. So I dove in to learn as much as what I could. What happened here? What's with this power of forgiveness? What is it really all about? And the more I couldn't stop learning enough, reading every book I can, listen lecture series, learning the science of forgiveness. And started 70 times 7 and started in 2016. And so the last 7 years, I've been doing one-on-one coaching for forgiveness with amazing results, just pages and pages of lives changed, lives saved. They were going to take their own lives that are here today. Last year, we decided to scale it now to reach a worldwide audience. And instead of just helping one-on-one. So I wrote my book. It comes out in a couple months. Forgiving a Good Man. I'm making fun of my last name. My dad ended up becoming a good man later in his life. Forgiving a Good Man. It's being turned into a feature film movie right now. So that go into theaters. I'm on the speaking tour. And just sharing this message. Just in the past week, we've gained over 9,000 followers on Facebook. So what we've started is a forgiveness movement. And we're so excited about people like you, Muhammad, that if together, right? If together, it doesn't matter what country, what do we look like, which God, what form of God that we worship, this message of forgiveness is universal. And if we can share this and more people can grasp on it, they would enjoy this blessing that I have, you have, we can have, and this whole world would be better. So 70 times 7 is building a forgiveness movement that ultimately will have a digital platform that will allow people to come aboard and go down the step. And by using psychology and experience, help them walk down the path of forgiveness. That's what we're working at.
Interesting. So your book, Forgiving a Good Man, is set to be released soon. What inspired you to write this book, and what can readers expect to find in its pages?
That's fantastic. The book is done. We're putting together the marketing package now. So I would say in the next couple months, and then we'll make an announcement. The book is my personal, it's a raw, I left nothing behind about my journey to forgiveness. You know, as I do, there's this version of forgiveness. You know what? I forgive you. And make it real easy and then move on, thinking that somehow or another, I'm sorry equals forgiveness. And it doesn't, right? I wish it were that easy. And then what happens is, oh, I forgave him a long time ago. But if his house burnt down, it'd serve him right, right? And they're still holding on to that anger and resentment, right? It's a surface level. So in my book, I get into the real detail of how I went down that journey to want to think about forgiving, to how I feel about forgiving, to where I was finally free, that I could talk about it and I could enjoy all the benefits of true forgiveness. So that's what that is what the book is all about. And at the end of the book, get into detail how you, the reader, can go down your own path and help you on your path to forgiveness.
Right. So the book and the feature film Forgiving a Good Man seems to be important projects for you. Could you give me a glimpse into the story and message you aim to convey through these works?
That's great. I would love to. You know, as I do, when people have been hurt, holding on to that pain, shame, blame, right? The idea of forgiving somebody that hurt you, it sounds so foreign. Why would I let them off the hook? They don't deserve to be forgiven. Why would I do that? It is not inherent into us to want to forgive. But we are wired to want freedom, right? And so much of the book and the movie is to connect those dots to realize that the forgiving equals freedom. Do you want to be free? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to feel joy? Do you want to have a better family life? Do you want your children to be happy, to have a better life? Is that what you want? Well, then hear how it works. It starts off by getting rid of that backpack of pain, shame, and blame. So in the movie now, because a movie is different, as you know, they take based off a true story. So in the movie, the basic concept of it is this bad person, this antagonist, my father, did these bad things to 4 sons. Each 4 took it a different way, which is true. Each one of us took it a different way. And it represents the way people take pain, right? They've been hurt. One full of anger and died full of anger and would never let it go. The other one turned to drugs and escaped and pornography and all sorts of other ways to escape till finally he couldn't handle it anymore. And he finally escaped from this life by taking his own life. And the other one put walls around him to protect him so he can't be hurt again. But those walls of protection actually become his own prison. And it's a life that none of us would ever want to live. And then there's one that forgave and it's got this beautiful, happy life. And so we walk through using the creative true story into it, not to teach or to preach to the audience, but to let them come to their own conclusion at the end of the film that say, I have a choice. That's not what happened to me. Mine was different, but I have a choice. Which path do I want to take? Now, I want to tell you this. There's a little surprise I'm going to give away now in the film for you, okay?
Thank you.
My dad, that same monster that should have gone to jail for the rest of his life, at age 65, he turned his life over, sobered up, turned his life over to God. And that same monster, the last 23 years of his life, he's no longer with us, turned into the most wonderful, loving, godly men you ever met. If you met this man and you heard my story, you'd be saying, there's no way that man equals that story. And that's right. So it doesn't matter how old you are, how much bad you've done. There is hope. There is inspiration that for redemption and grace and forgiveness. And so we ended up reconciling and having a wonderful time. We did things together. We were on a sports team together, and I was there holding his hand to the day he died. That, my friend, is the power and the beauty of forgiveness. How is that possible? It seems almost impossible that a man that could do that bad of things can change that much, or the power of forgiveness can change me that much. but it is.
Amazing. So, forgiveness often involves a complex process of letting go of pain, shame, and blame. What are some practical steps or insights you offer to individuals who are struggling with forgiveness?
So the first it starts off with just desire, hope. Look, like my oldest brother, he held on to that, and he would not let it go, right? And some of us would rather hold on to the pain than release it and be forgiven, be forgiving, right? And I get it. That pain identifies you. If you were to take that away, I identify with it. I am like this because I can't hold on to a job because I've been divorced 3 times because it's your identity. And is that an identity you want? Well, maybe that's so. And so if you're holding on to that, I meet people all the time that will not let that go. And that's okay. That's your right as a human being to die angry if you want to. I won't. So it starts off with a desire. Is enough enough? Yes, you have every right to, but are your shoulders getting tired? Are you tired of all the bad relationships? Do you desire a better life? If so, then let me help you walk down that path. So then it starts off with is an accounting. Now it sounds strange. You've heard that term forgive and forget. It makes me want to pull my hair out. Well, if I had hair, I would pull it out. You can't forgive and forget. Choose one. You don't get both. Okay. If you think about it, if there's a debt, if I owe you money, right, you can just forget it. But on your accounting system, that bad debt is still sitting there and it still keeps popping up from time to time. It's, I forgot it. Oh, that mark. Oh, and it's like trying to push a cork down into the water. What happened? It keeps popping back up again. So you think that you're forgetting it, but it shows up in ugly ways. No, take an accounting, just like in a debt. If you went to your accountant and you wanted to write a debt off, that accountant would say, what debt? How much? Oh, just whatever it is. No, how much? 86 and change, whatever that is. So it's then counting is to what was the harm? In my case, I interviewed other family members, old school friends from growing up. I wanted to know all of it. If I'm going to forgive, I want a full accounting of it. And you know what? It hurt. It really hurt. Because it turns out I had stuffed away a lot of it, and it was worse than what I can remember. So sometimes pulling off that to heal a wound can be painful, but it's well worth it. So I had a full accounting. Once I had that, is there anything else? Anything else? Anything else? This is what I'm going to forgive. Enough. I've been carrying this around too long. God help me. I am going to release this, and not another day am I going to carry this around. But I knew what I was releasing, as painful as that was. And that was part of making me free.
So, as a forgiveness advocate, what are some common misconceptions or myths about forgiveness that you encounter, and how do you address them?
Two big ones. I'm going to do the second one first, the easier one. The second one, I should say, is the confusion between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness and reconciliation. Reconciliation requires forgiveness. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. Now, there are many times where reconciliation is not wise. If you're in an abusive relationship situation, or they're just unforgiving, they're just mean and nasty, right? You can forgive them, but that doesn't mean reconciling with them. Forgiveness is one side of a two-sided transaction. You have the person who hurt you and the person who is hurt. the offender and the offended, the transgressor or the transgressed. And I can forgive who hurt me subject to nothing. And that's the big thing. It's subject to nothing. And I'm the one that benefits from. I don't even have to, if once I forgive them and I feel great about it, I don't even have to go to them and say, hey, Muhammad, guess what? I forgave you. No, it's one side of a two-sided transaction. And that's where it's free. And that's where the biggest misconception, which brings us to the number one biggest misconception. That's an exchange. Remember when you were young and it's like your mom told you, Muhammad, go tell your brother you're sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. And somehow or another, that exchange made everything okay, right? That you're really sorry and he's really okay with it and the scales of justice are okay. Come on. That is so silly. No. We were taught that how can I forgive them if they don't say I'm sorry, if they didn't apologize, if they didn't change their ways? It's an exchange. And it's not an exchange. And let me point something out to you, how silly that is. If it were an exchange, that my happiness and my joy is subject to the very person who hurt me. Let me, here are the keys to the kingdom. I know you hurt me. That was really bad. And I'm going to stay angry for the rest of my life until you say you're sorry, till you fall on your ground, till you go to jail, to your house, whatever it is. How silly it is. So I'm going to stay angry with the rest. I'm giving them the keys to the kingdom to me. So I was a victim and I will be a victim to the rest of my life. And the victims are powerless. Victims have no control of their lives. Victims have every excuse for any kind of behavior. So like I said before, I am a mean, nasty person because, and I have a good excuse to be a mean, nasty person because you know what happened to me? Or it's not an exchange, that is subject to nothing. So as soon as you start saying, well, I can't forgive them until they, I don't care what word you use after that, you don't get it and you'll never be free. But when you can say, I can forgive them and I will forgive them subject to nothing, then you move from the passenger seat into the driver's seat. And now you have the ability to take your life in places that are phenomenal, not giving them the keys, not letting them. So it's subject, forgiveness is subject to nothing. There is no exchange. Those are the two biggest that I run into. Great question, by the way. Thank you for asking.
Amazing. So forgiveness often involves forgiving oneself as well. How do you guide individuals on the path to self-forgiveness, and why is this aspect of forgiveness important?
That's a real tough one. Okay. Anybody's been through it, you know it's the toughest. When we meet other people, we know them mostly. Your own wife, your own kids, you know them mostly. You don't know everything. When you drive around your vehicle, you know every little dent in that car. And likewise, this vehicle, I know every little dent in this car. And I can wear a mask and I can shine it up and make it look pretty. But I know what I did last week, what I did last month, what I did last year, that not only did I hurt that person, but I know the cause and what I was thinking at the time. I know things that what I did. And so to forgive myself is tougher than forgiving others. For the other reason being is I am the offender and I am the offended. I'm the one that did wrong and I'm the one that was wronged. So now remember, now I'm two parts of the transaction, and two parts of the transaction requires reconciliation. And it's a good idea to be reconciled with yourself. If I don't have reconciliation within myself, then it causes all sorts of problems, right? Anger and resentment. There's wars that happen. We're seeing a war going down right now because they can't find reconciliation. So we have wars going on inside of our own head that affects, and other people around can feel that unforgiveness. And so what happens is good to be reconciled. So if we're going to reconcile within ourselves, it takes two sides. So it's much tougher. So I like to treat it as though it's almost two different people. Hey, Mark, what you did was wrong. It was really wrong. Okay, what happened? Let's have an accounting. Here we go with an accounting. Exactly what happened. Oh, I don't want to do that. I've been packing that away for so long. No, I just want to keep it packed away. How's that worked out for you? Just packing it away? The war has gone on inside of my head the whole time. No, we're going to have an accounting. And it may take amends to it. It may be going to the person and saying what I did was wrong, if it doesn't hurt them, right? Make amends if it doesn't hurt the other person. But then just like it's two people, is then finally I have an accounting. I am sorry, Mark. I am sorry for what I did. And I forgive you, Mark. I truly forgive you. I had a full accounting. What you did was wrong. But you know what? You're a human being. You got that right. And I forgive you. I want relationship. I'm going to reconcile. Now, I want to leave this with you. One other thing. If you're apologizing, there's 3 parts to a great apology. 3 parts. And if you can get this right, even whether you're forgiving yourself, asking yourself for forgiveness, or asking somebody else. And if you've ever been on the receiving side of this, you understand how wonderful it is. And it works like this. What happened? What did it cause? What were the consequences? What happened? What did it cause? What were the consequences? Mohammed, I'm sorry I hit you with the bat. Well, there's apology. That's not good enough. Mohammed, I'm sorry I broke your arm. That's on me. Mohammed, you know that match that you wanted to play and that you can't play and you've been looking forward to so long you can't play it now? That's on me. I'm sorry. What happened? What it caused? Whatever. If you've ever been on the receiving side, I'm sorry I cheated on you. I'm sorry that it hurt our relationship and we broke up and whenever. And I'm sorry that you probably won't trust again like you did before. And that's on me. That's powerful. And likewise, when you're forgiving yourself, I'm sorry for what happened. I'm sorry for what it caused. I'm sorry for the long-term consequences. Boom, free.
That's wonderful. As we conclude this enriching discussion, Mark, your work as a forgiveness advocate, speaker, and author is truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your remarkable journey and